Okay, guys, it is time for our first guest of the evening. We're going to bring on right now Heather. She is a lymphedema therapist. How you doing, Heather?
I'm awesome. How are you, April?
I am awesome too. Thanks so much for taking time out to join tonight. We've already got people excited that you're here and submitting questions, so I think we're going to have a busy
Oh,
little
cool.
30 minutes here.
Okay, great. Shoot.
Well, hey, listen, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field.
It was actually a little bit of a fluke, honestly, if you believe in such a thing. I was working for a national physical therapy company back in the 90s, and the corporate marketing team for this nationwide company said, "Hey, we've identified this population that we're not reaching as a whole, and we would like somebody to go to this class." And nobody else would raise their hand and sat there in silence. And so I was just being a team player. I'll go. I didn't even know what lymphedema was. So I got to class back in 1997, and I was just immediately fascinated. I thought, my God, this makes so much sense. And I felt terrible for all of the things that we had done improperly before then. In physical therapy school, the things they teach you to do with swelling are not exactly what we do for lymphedema. But now we know better, and so we do better. And the rest is history. I came back from class and became their lymphedema therapist and did that full time, and it just blossomed.
Wow, how long ago was that?
That was in 1997. And, back in that day when insurance was a little bit different, when you needed to go for therapy, it was much more generous. You could go for several visits. And, lymphedema is not like a broken leg it happens once and you reduce the swelling and that's it. It keeps coming back. So people started asking me, "Hey, my insurance visits are up. Will you just come to my house and I'll pay you, to do this, to help me maintain this on the side?" And I said no so many times that I heard that. And one day I started saying, "Yeah, I sure will. I'll be glad to help you." So evenings and weekends, bought a massage table, put it in the trunk of my car, and started being everybody's maintenance therapist. And within a couple years, it was a full-time business.
Wow, I can only imagine that it did become that because it's true. I mean, I'm a breast cancer survivor myself, obviously, and I know so little about lymphedema, but those that I know that have gone through it, it's just been a constant challenge. It just seems like it's one of those things that people don't know a lot about. Can you tell us a little bit, like some of these people out here watching right now have no clue what lymphedema is? Can you describe what it is to
Yep.
them?
Think it's a plumbing problem. The lymphatic fluid is the natural waste byproduct. The lymph system, it has like three different functions, but its biggest function for fluid, it's our part of our sewer system. Um, Everything you eat gets digested into little nutrients, and that ends up in your blood, and your blood takes all that healthy, rich, oxygen rich, nutrient rich stuff to your cells. And the cellular metabolism produces a waste, and that goes into the lymphatic system. It picks up pieces of cellular debris, and then your immune cells are also floating around in there looking for things that don't belong. So it's part of your security system as well for your immune system. And when people have cancer, part of the treatment is to look at that lymphatic system, because your lymph nodes, think of your lymph nodes kind of like lentils or little green English peas. Like under your arm, you have 35 to 50, just depends on what you're born with. And a good healthy lymphatic system and immune system, part of its job is to pull things that don't belong into the lymph nodes where they can be filtered and destroyed. Germs, viruses, cancer cells. Part of that job is to bring that trash into there so that your body can get rid of it. So when you have cancer treatment, one of the things they do is check out the lymph nodes in that area to see, if the cancer's been there long enough, your body has already started trying to eradicate that on its own. And they'll look at the lymph nodes closest to the tumor to see how many have cancer in them. So when you have surgery, they can tell you how many they take out.
And
Sometimes it's four.
sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt you, but
Yeah.
talking about them doing the surgery and checking your lymph nodes and whatnot
Mhm.
nearest to where your tumor is. So most of us that have gone through breast cancer, those lymph nodes are located under your arm, but there's
Right.
lymph nodes in other areas. And so, are you saying that even like some other type of cancer, they will check?
Yes.
So tell everybody where the other lymph nodes are,
So
and
we have a big group right here in our head and neck, and then under each arm. Then you've also got them right, there's actually a picture right behind me. I don't know if you can see that. You've got a big group right in the bend of your leg, kind of where your panty line is, right on the top of your thigh. And then you've got some down in your abdomen. So if you think of a line that divides your body straight down the middle, and then right here at your throat, and then kind of at your navel. So your body is sectioned off. So anything that you have, let's say in the hip area or the leg or the foot, that fluid all drains to the lymph nodes in your groin. Anything that you may have in your abdominal area is going to drain to the left or the right side of that middle watershed down the middle. So even though the whole system is connected, it has a territory that it's responsible for patrolling.
that is fascinating. I mean, you think
Mhm.
about it, it's like this security system that you have in different areas of your body
Mhm.
that captures like I said, like infection or germs or whatever it might be as it travels through your body. It's kind of like a stopping point. So like from your breasts, it
Mhm.
would go to your lymph nodes, and everything looks good under here. And then it lets the good stuff move on. But other than that, it'll
Right.
yeah, that's so
And
crazy.
because it's sectioned off is you don't have to worry about um, with lymphedema as far as that's concerned. Like if you have, let's say you have some lymph nodes removed, let's say maybe you have a melanoma on your thigh. And so they're going to look at the lymph nodes closest to your, say at your right thigh. They're going to look at the lymph nodes in your right groin. Well, you don't have to worry about the plumbing on the left side. The lymph nodes are intact. So you don't really look at swelling in your left leg. It's only going to be that right leg that's affected because the body's sectioned off. The rest of the area is sort of protected.
Wow. That's crazy. Like, I never really even thought of it like that. Like I said, as a breast cancer survivor, we're very aware of the lymph nodes under our arms. And when I
Hmm.
think about it, I'm like, oh, well, there's other lymph nodes, but I don't think about the fact that if you had cancer somewhere else, they might be checking a different lymphatic
Right.
system, depending on where that is. Well, can
Hmm.
you tell us a little bit about like what some of the early signs are? That's one of the things we had Dr. Cherie on a while back. She talked about how important it was to know those signs.
Yes. We'll just use breast cancer since we're talking about that topic. Some of the early signs, it's very subtle. If you Google lymphedema and you look on the internet at the pictures, they're the worst case scenario. You don't wake up one day and it looks like that. They show the most dramatic, horrific, scary to death pictures. It's very, very subtle to start with. Most people are going to notice just a little feeling of heaviness or tightness, like maybe more so in the evening. When you get up in the morning, everything seems pretty good. So you're not sure if you're imagining that later in the day, your rings feel a little tight, or maybe your watch feels a little tight, or that area under your arm, against your chest wall. Maybe you take your bra off and you've kind of got an indention in that on one side, but you don't have that indention on the other. That's what swelling can look like. And really, it actually starts the way the system is made. As it gets more congested, the swelling starts in your shoulder and chest wall and your upper arm. But most people are just kind of watching their hand to see if it's swollen. But really, once it gets down to your hand, it's been there for a while. And it'll wax and wane. At night it'll feel a little puffy, but in the morning you get up and it seems fine. That's actually considered stage one, where it comes and goes. Then stage two, where you really need some intervention, is the morning you wake up and it's still swollen.
Wow. Yeah.
We love it when people come in when they're seeing that, hey, it's a little puffy here, but it went away. We really like for people to come in that early, but oftentimes they don't until it's, you know,
So
because it doesn't typically hurt too much.
yeah, you're just like, oh, something annoying's happening. I don't
Yeah, it
know what
doesn't
it
feel
is or
right.
what. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So it's important to definitely let your doctor know or let somebody who knows in your medical team, so that you can get assistance with that. Because if you catch it early enough, what can you do? Like, it sounds like you catch it early enough, then there's something that can be done.
Yes, and even people who didn't know what to do about it for years and years, and it's really late in the game, there's still something that can be done. I find that people after years, kind of give up. They get sort of tired of, somebody couldn't help them and they just sort of said, this is the way it's going to be. Even in those cases, you can help it. But if you catch it early, part of the problem with lymphedema is infection. You'll see a lot of talk on lymphedema prevention and not getting an infection. Like, don't get a blood drawn in that side, or don't get your COVID shot in that arm, or don't get a sunburn or bug bites or any other breaks in the skin. And the reason for that is bacteria loves protein, and our lymphatic fluid has a high concentration of protein in it. It's normal, it's natural. And if you've got some swelling sitting in there, you have a nice warm environment with lots and lots of food. So you can get what we call cellulitis. And what that looks like is, normally we get a little paper cut on our finger and we're just like, ow, that hurt, and we move on. Well, the next day it's going to be bright red. And then maybe a few hours later, your whole finger is swollen. What starts out as something that shouldn't be that big a deal, all of a sudden is hot and red, and maybe you feel a little achy. Then you need to get to the doctor immediately for some antibiotics.
And that's just the whole part of the fact that your lymphatic system isn't able to take care of that tiny little issue like it
Right,
normally would because
right.
it's kind of just
It
not able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's congested, and remember that the lymphatic fluid is ick. It's sewer fluid. It's leftover trash, so you've kind of got all that ick sitting in there. So, the oxygen, the nutrients, the good stuff, things just can't really move through like they should. So it slows everything down.
Gotcha. Well, so like with somebody like me, and probably many women who are watching right now who maybe are far out from their cancer treatment or surgeries, where they were told back then, hey, don't do any blood pressure or injections on that side that we took some lymph
Mhm.
nodes and everything like that. Is
Mhm.
that like a lifelong thing that you have to? I mean, I've always like ever since then I'm like, okay, no right arm stuff, only left arm
Right.
stuff, and so I'm really
Yeah,
big on that.
unfortunately, it really is, and it can be frustrating for a lot of people. Most people who get lymphedema either get it right away, like they swell up after surgery and things just doesn't really go down, or people seem to be fine from like year 1, but year 2, in between that second year, kind of just when you think like the worst is over and you're sort of getting done with all this, a lot of people see swelling then. But then there's another subset of people that, like years later, can develop some lymphedema. And part of that is because as we age, things are not as elastic as they used to be. And that's our skin. I don't know about you. I turned 51 last year, and if you've put your hand under an air dryer in the last few years in the bathroom and you see how loose your skin is, it's quite humbling.
Yeah. Well, before you joined, I was practically doing a commercial for dry skin, so yeah, I
It's
didn't understand.
yeah,
It's all
it's
related.
pretty mortifying. So our skin is natural compression. When we're 25, our skin is nice and elastic, and part of what helps propel lymphatic fluid along is compression of the skin. So when you moving around in your skin suit and your muscles are contracting and relaxing, it creates a pump. And that's one of the things that helps propel the natural fluid. And then as we age, we don't have that compression so much, and things can start to swell up a little bit more. People like after menopause, women see that, and even men, their skin is not as quite as elastic. Their stays elastic for a little bit longer, but um, you start to notice that. So I really usually recommend that people have a compression sleeve, even if they don't need to wear it every day, consult with a therapist every few years and just check out your situation, and maybe have something on hand that you can wear when you're going to do something that might tend to swell you up. Like things out of the ordinary typically are what get you, like you decide to rearrange your living room one day, or clean out all of your closets, or clean out that garage, or, you know, something that's out of the ordinary for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the takeaway is definitely just to be super careful if you've had
Hmm.
surgery to had your lymph nodes biopsied or removed, and just make sure that you are always careful and keeping an eye on that and reporting back to your doctor if
Yep.
anything should come up. So you kind of touched on a little bit when you were talking about that our skin acts as compression. What is it about the compression that helps it? Can you explain that a little more
So a
detail?
compression sleeve is kind of like if you think of a thick pantyhose, it's elasticy. Actually, you see like the basketball players are wearing them these days, to help keep their muscles warm. The compression sleeve just puts a little bit of pressure on the lymphatic vessels so that when you move around with that sleeve on, it helps to pump the fluid. Because the vessels, the little superficial vessels, are right underneath your skin. They're in the layer between your skin and your muscle. So they're on top of your muscle. They're not that deep. So it just takes a little bit of pressure to help bring there's little valves in there that keep the vessel together, and it helps pump the fluid.
Gotcha. That's
Hmm.
I'm learning so much. It's like I had no idea the amount of detail and just sort of the inner workings of it. I love the way you described that it's your lymphatic system is where all the gross stuff goes, it's
Hmm.
kind of your little security system to make sure that you
It's
don't
all
have.
very mechanical.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I even wonder if some people who have lymphedema are aware of this kind of detail. So that's really amazing. We have like a lot of questions, and I was trying to
Okay.
capture a couple of them for you here. So let me go back over here and see what I got for you. So Jennifer Tatum asked, she said, "Can it be sporadic? Like, is it worse lying down?" And you kind of just answered that. So yes, it can be.
It's better lying down because when you lay down at night, I mean, gravity is not completely removed because it's still holding you to the earth. It's still pulling down, but it's not pulling down linearly. So when you lay down at night, things can really drain better, and it's typically better in the morning.
Gotcha. See, and I would have not known that at all. That was
Hmm.
a really good question from Jennifer. So let me get over here. I'll get another question. This is from Irene Brown. She says, "What do you do for courting?"
Oh, that's cording is like kind of a scar tissue that people get after surgery. That in the axillary area where they take out the tumor and do the axillary node dissection. Some people get what we call cording or tethering, where it's all along the triceps muscle. Sometimes it can go all the way down to your elbow. And there's a good balance in cording between stretching that and not stretching it too much. I would actually go see a therapist who can help you with that because you really need two hands to do it. While you can do some stretches yourself, you kind of need somebody who's practiced at which direction to pull.
Interesting, and it's that's another thing. It's like I said, I've been cancer free for 10 years, so I'm really far out from all my therapies and everything, but I'm still learning so much. And this courting thing is
Hmm.
actually new to me. Like I wasn't aware of it until I've recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, gotten a lot more active in a lot of these survivor groups. And I hear that courting all the
Hmm.
time. It's good to know that there's hope for that and there's something that you can do about that. So that's really,
Absolutely. Yeah,
really
it's a
good.
good inflammatory response. Some people get it and some people don't.
Gotcha. Yeah. I thankfully don't have any of these problems, but I'm, doing my best to be careful and cognizant in case anything does crop up. Also, we got Brandy McComb. She's actually an amazing volunteer. She said that her mother had a small mole under her skin, ended up being melanoma. They had to remove both lymph nodes. So I guess she's probably going to want to make sure that her mom stays on top of that. I'm sure Brandy her medical team probably let her know to not do any blood pressure or
Hmm.
needles in that side where she had the lymph nodes removed. I don't think we really got to it, but what is the like I understand with the needles and cuts and anything like that on that side, it essentially means that you don't have the capacity to heal that you did
Right.
before you had this lymphatic
Hmm.
problem. But the blood pressure, Like, how does that affect? Because I'm told not to do that as well.
Yes, that's squeezing. So the lymphatic vessels, they're really superficial. They're right underneath your skin on top of the muscle. So when you squeeze it tightly, you're actually compressing the vessel and you're pinching it off so that the fluid can't move. And it causes it to spasm a little bit. And, for some people whose lymphatic system is barely keeping up, it could be the one little squeeze that tips the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. Same thing for like the tight clothing or a purse on the shoulder, anything that leaves an indention is cutting off lymphatic flow.
Interesting. Gosh, I can't wait to
Mhm.
go back and
Mhm.
watch this again
Mhm.
and just like relearn it all again because it's so
Well,
much
and
fascinating
here's what's
information.
interesting is that, there's a genetic propensity to who gets lymphedema and who doesn't. And it's been the mystery for a long time. When you talk to people in these groups, you might talk to one person who had 36 lymph nodes removed and a bunch of radiation, and they should naturally have a lot of lymphatic trauma, but they never have a day of swelling in their life. And you can talk to another person who maybe they didn't have any radiation and they had 11 lymph nodes removed and their arm swells. And you scratch your head and think, well, why is that? Because it's opposite of what you think. The person who had the most damage would be at the most risk. And yes, they are. It's a calculated thing. But why didn't she get it? And the person who had the least damage did. And the answer to that is what you're genetically born with. Some people have more lymph nodes in that area. The range is under the arm and the axillary area is 35 to 50. That's the average range, which, if you think about it, it's kind of a lot. That's a big range. We all have 32 teeth, we all have two kidneys, we all have 10 fingers. Why do some people have more lymph nodes than another? Don't know. And then the second factor to that is also the pipes that carry the fluid to the nodes. When you go give blood, you hear the nurse saying, "Oh my gosh, you have the nice, big, fat, juicy veins. I can really find one easily." And you might talk to another person who they say, "Yours are so tiny, I can't hardly find them." And that is that some people genetically grow tubes really well, and some people have teeny tiny ones and not very many. So it's what you're born with. If you're that person who was born with little bitty pipes and not very many, and maybe not very many lymph nodes, you're at a higher risk.
Wow. This is such
Hmm.
cool information. Like, I
Yeah,
never look up what are the risks for lymphedema. I look up what's the risk for breast cancer or how can you lower your risk and all that, but never
right.
really even thought of that. And I'm one of those people actually that hears, "Oh, it's so hard to find a vein on you," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Oh crap." But I'm wondering,
Y-
for all I know, they may have taken out less lymph nodes than they did the next
Right,
guy, or
right,
maybe I had 15 more than the next guy, or whatever. I've
right.
just been fortunate. Do you know if because I know that so many times when I'm looking into things and talking to other doctors about stuff, there's a lot of times that nutrition and health plays into all that. Do you know how much of that plays into getting lymphedema?
Yes, it does matter because fats can clog up the lymphatic system because part of the lymphatic system job is to carry away large fats. So, like the unhealthy larger fats, they actually go straight to your lymphatic system. They don't go into your bloodstream. Your lymphatic part of what makes a difference in what things go into the bloodstream and what things go into the lymphatic system are the holes in the tubes. So even though your veins and arteries are much bigger tubes, they have smaller holes in them. So the smaller particles fit in there. And then your lymphatic system, it's a much smaller tube, but it has bigger holes in them. So the larger particles fit in there. That's how your body knows which way to send what. It's kind of like the pasta colander, it only fits through the holes in a certain way. So
Right.
right.
Good
So the
visual.
large Yeah, the larger stuff goes into the lymphatic system. So unhealthy big fats are probably one of the biggest culprits because it just goes straight to your lymphatic system. And if you've got a lymphatic system that's already working a little harder, because remember, it's not that your body's producing too much fluid. You're not swelling because your body's making more fluid. You're swelling because the normal amount of fluid that your body already makes has less pathways to exit. And
Wow.
so if you add extra in, and that's also when they talk about things that cause inflammation, that for preventing lymphedema, anything that causes swelling, that's the same principle. If you already have a lymphatic system that it's keeping up, you're not swollen, but it's things are trucking along, but it can't handle any more, and you add some extra swelling in, like an injury or a bug bite or something like that. It could be that little bit of extra swelling that just makes the system say, "That's it. I'm done. I can't take any more. I'm going to swell."
Wow. That is so cool. I mean, this is such amazing information. I'm so happy that you're able to join us tonight. And I know Lori Jones is on right now, and she was wanting to ask a question. I think, but she's having some connectivity problems. But I will read you what she wrote. She said, "I
Okay.
wish I could make it work. I sunburned my cancer arm accidentally yesterday." And the dumb sleeve is so tight it hurts. And she says, whining wine. Poor Lori, I'm so sorry, girl. I hope, well, first of all, I hope you're able to get back on the show and watch. And I'm also so sorry to hear about your arm. That's frustrating.
And of course, when you cut yourself, it's going to be the one that you don't want to cut. I mean, that's the way it is, right?
Right.
You sunburn the one that you're not supposed to sunburn. And that's life. We do things and you want to go live your life and but just be aware of these things. And when something happens, I hope everybody has a good therapist in your area that you can use as your teammate to, consult with when these things happen. In a case like that, it might be that you don't need to wear your sleeve. You've got a little extra swelling and tissue damage. It might be a little too tight. Or go in for some lymphatic massage. That really helps get the fluid out.
Man, any kind of massage helps everything. Come on. It
Absolutely.
does,
Who doesn't
man.
love that?
It
Yes.
does. Going back to the point about diet and nutrition and all that stuff
Mhm.
like that. I think the thing with that is it's the hardest answer, It's the
Yeah.
hardest answer because it's like, that's a constant you constantly have to be thinking and monitoring your food and all that stuff, but I think that there's a lot of motivation when you realize how much of a difference it can make in your
Mhm.
overall health. I know Dr. Joseph Shaughnessy, she always talks about how important it is to have a low fat diet to help
Yes.
keep your risk of breast cancer or your recurrence as low as possible. And so this is just another element that says probably a low
Mhm.
fat diet is a good idea to help lower your risk of lymphedema. So that's really
Lots of
important, I think.
fiber. Anti-inflammatory diet is a good rule. You could just Google anti-inflammatory diet and try to stick to those things because inflammation causes more risk for lymphedema. So you really want to keep your inflammatory markers down. Drink a lot of water. Another good one is avoid diuretics. Diuretics are caffeine. Caffeine and all diuretics, what they do is the water molecules in the lymphatic system are small, and the larger waste molecules and protein molecules that are naturally in there are larger and stickier. So when you take a diuretic or drink a soda or some caffeine, anything with caffeine in it, it pulls the water off and it leaves the thick, sticky behind. So it really makes it gunkier. So you really want extra water. Try to cut down on the caffeine. If you're a Starbucks person or
Oh
something, get a
god,
half cap at least.
I feel like somebody coached you into saying this to me or
Oh,
something. It's like some kind of an
probably.
intervention was planned, and Josie probably knew. She's like, "Hey, Heather, go fix April with her caffeine addict." I am truly that is truly my only vice in my life. I quit drinking like 28 years ago, so I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, nothing like that. And but caffeine, absolutely.
Gotta
I'm
have
a
something.
Yeah, I'm really really bad about it. And it's not like it's the first time I've heard this. I've encountered multiple issues from caffeine, so I really gonna take that to heart that you said that again
Yeah,
and
so
try to make some steps to really lessen that.
I'm a coffee drinker too, so I would have a hard time giving that up. But here your hack is we're supposed to have our 8 glasses of water a day, 8-ounce glasses of water a day. For everything you drink with caffeine in it, add another glass of water. So you can drink it. You just have to hack it. Drink more water.
Yep, I got you. And that was a big one. I remember going through treatment. It was like drink a lot of water. I mean,
Mhm.
it's the thing
Mhm.
is there's very specific things that you can do with your diet and nutrition that's just going to help you across the board. And it's in so many of the things that we talked about here, some of the things that Dr. O'Shaughnessy talks about when we have her on. And it's that water, lots and lots of water is so true. I'm bad about
Mhm.
that too, but you're kicking me into gear again. I'm gonna try to make a difference. I just noticed we're at the end of time here, but I want to give you
Oh,
a
wow.
chance real quick, if you don't mind, Heather, to let everybody know if you have like a website or anything like that. So if they're seeking a
Yeah,
therapist,
sure,
you know?
sure. Yeah, I actually work in a group office called the Health Collective. My business name is Bodywork RX, and that's bodyworkrx.net. But you can also find me on the Health Collective website, and that's hlthco.com. What we are is kind of a space sharing place for independent health providers, acupuncture, yoga, nutritionists, counseling. We have a hypnotherapist and a couple of lymphedema therapists here, chiropractic. So it's a group wellness. You can find me on either one of those.
That's really cool. And the hypnotherapist is interesting because I have a hypnotherapist out of Houston, and I really believe in that whole thing. I want to make sure I got your website. Oops, I switched the screen. I accident. I want to make sure I got your website correct. Could you tell the
Mhm.
Bodyworks one again?
Body, BODYWORKRX.net.
Oh, I got you. Everybody so that they're aware of
Awesome.
it. Cool. I see it here. I'm gonna ping it in the group chat for everybody so that they have it.
Fab.
Find Heather here. Ah, there we go. And I will pin it for everyone watching. Yeah, Heather, so freaking cool, man. I'm so
My
glad
pleasure.
that Josie introduced you to us here, and I know this is going to be a huge help to all of the women out there watching who have had breast cancer, and the men. We actually have, I know of
Yes.
several men that follow us and are on our survivor group. So it's super, super helpful information. I've learned so much from you. I can't wait to watch the
Yay.
replay and relearn it.
Anytime. I can talk
Girl,
about this all day.
girl, thank you so much. And you
My
have a
pleasure.
great night, and appreciate you coming. And maybe we'll have
Thanks.
you back again sometime, okay?
Anytime.
Take
Cheers.
care. All right, take
All
care.
right. Bye.
Guys, that was Heather. She's a rock star, man. So cool to have her on the show this evening.